Hi everyone. Today, our group will conduct an analysis on Sino-Vatican diplomatic relations, mainly in the following four aspects: background, non-traditional diplomacy, realism, and triangle relations, as well as the final conclusion. First, let me give you a brief introduction about the Catholicism as well as the Vatican and China. Catholicism, also known as the Roman Catholic Church, is one of the three major sects of Christianity, along with Eastern Orthodoxy and Protestantism. At the end of 2018, the number of Catholics in the world was more than 1,000 million, accounting for about 17.7% of the world's population. Catholicism is widely spread around the world. This picture shows the percentage of the population members of the Catholic Church by country and territory in 2010. We can see that Southern Europe, Latin America, and the Philippines has the highest percentage of Catholic. You can also notice that the figure in China is less than 1%, while Taiwan is slightly higher. The second picture is the number of members of the Catholic Church by country and territory. It indicates that the US, Brazil, Europe, China, and India have the biggest Catholic population. In the absolute number, China has more Catholic population than Taiwan. After the policy of freedom of religious belief has been put into effect, the Catholic Church in China has achieved great development. As of 10th December of 2009, there were nearly 3,400 clergies and almost 6,000 churches in China. And according to incomplete statistics, there were about 5.7 million religious members in Chinese Catholic Church. By April 2018, the number of Catholics in China had grown to about 6 million, with about 8,000 clerical personnel. The data above were collected from officially recognized church organizations. Accurate number of believers are higher than statistics and difficult to estimate, but there is no denying that Catholicism plays an important role in China's religious system. As for the history of Sino-Vatican diplomacy, in 16th century, Matteo Ricci, an Italian missionary, arrived in China during the Ming Dynasty, marking the official beginning of the modern Catholicism's 400-year history in China. Although the spread of Catholicism in China has experienced several rounds, in 19th century, China totally opened its door to the Roman Church under the aggression of Western powers. In 1922, Vatican dispatched the first diplomatic representative, Gang Hengyi, to the Republic of China, which is the first official diplomatic contact between the two sides. In 1929, the signing of the Lateran Treaty meant that Vatican became a legally independent and sovereign state under theocracy. It began to be active in international communication. During the establishment of the anti-Japanese National United Front, the Communist Party of China included the freedom of religious belief in the scope of the United Front, so there was no major conflict between the two sides during this period. In July 1942, the Holy See officially established diplomatic relations with the Republic of China, and the papal envoy was formally accredited to China. In 1946, after the establishment of the Chinese Catholic Church hierarchy, the Holy See set up its embassy in Nanjing. In October 1949, the People's Republic of China was founded, but the Holy See still didn't recognize or establish diplomatic relations with the new China. At the first National Conference on United Front Work in March 1950, Zhou Enlai repeatedly stressed the protection of freedom of religious belief and that Catholicism in China should be run by Chinese people, not under the direction of the Vatican. After the outbreak of the Korean War in June 1950, this antagonism became more acute. The Holy See once again expressed its resolute opposition to communism, the Communist Party, and the Communist states. In 1958, the Pope refused to approve the bishop candidates chosen by the Chinese Catholic Church, forcing it to run its self-governed Catholic Patriotic Association under principles of autonomy, self-nourishment, autobiography. In 1981, Deng Xiaoping laid down two basic principles for establishing relations between China and the Vatican, namely, the Vatican's recognition of one China and the Vatican's respect for the three self-principles of the Chinese Catholic Patriotic Association. In 2014, China and the Vatican resumed official contacts and negotiations and reached a tacit understanding on the issue of the appointment of bishops. Neither side would unilaterally appoint bishops, and there would be no forcible ordination. Apart from the Taiwan issue, the most prominent contradiction is the different power structures of two sides, which is derived from diverse cultural characteristics. China's past centralized system has produced a structure in which church power succumbs to the secular power, while feudatory and the hundreds of years of struggle between theocracy and kingship in Catholic civilization made the church power parallel to or even override the secular power. This contradiction is mainly reflected in appointment of bishops. That's an obstacle to rebuild official relation between China and the Vatican. As for whether two sides should establish diplomatic relations, our group members will then conduct a systematic analysis and make a conclusion.
Part 2 is about the non-traditional diplomacy, religion. After the Second World War, especially after the Cold War, the world experienced a religious revival. With the in-depth development of global civil society, media, and technological means, the trend of openness in diplomacy has become apparent. Based on this, religion can exert greater influence on the diplomacy of various countries through its grassroots organizations all over the world. Religion has become an important part of non-traditional diplomacy. In 1996, Diamond and MacDonald proposed that religion is the seventh track of multi-track diplomacy. Religion is the conscience of a multi-track diplomacy system. It provides spiritual power, idealism, and ethical foundation for the system. In 2016, Johnston and Cox put forward the concept of faith-based diplomacy. They think the emphasis on faith is an extension of real politics. Various religious resources should be used to bridge the gap between religions, resolve religious conflicts, or conduct preventive interventions. This pie chart shows the religion beliefs of Chinese adults from Chinese Family Panel Studies 2012. We can see that Catholicism accounts for 0.41% of the total adult population, the smallest compared to other major religions. Here I will introduce China's religious policy. The state can severely suppress religion, for example, the Cultural Revolution, but may also show sufficient tolerance after the reform and opening up. The state occupies a dominant position in the development of religion. The state-religious relationship in China is that the state controls religions to serve the goals of the state. It is neither a unity of state and church, nor a simple separation of state and church. Article 36 of the Chinese Constitution stipulates that Chinese citizens shall have freedom of religious belief. However, CCP imposes a mandatory requirement on party members not to believe in religion because Marxism advocates atheism. The state manages religious affairs through national and local religious associations and ensures that state's ability to intervene in religion through registration and annual inspection systems. Issued in 1982, document number 19 emphasized the principle of independence and self-management of churches and prohibiting foreign church organizations from interfering in domestic religious affairs. Issued in 1991, document number 6 emphasized the prevention of the peaceful evolution of foreign religions in mainland China and ensuring that religions do not pose a political threat. The biggest obstacle between China and the Vatican is the dispute over the appointment of bishops. For Vatican, bishops should be appointed by the Holy See. For Catholic bishops, the Holy See first decides who is chosen from priests from all over the world and then takes office through the consecration ceremony. The Holy See cannot accept the appointment of China's Catholic bishops by Chinese government, which is seen as a challenge to the Holy See's supremacy in the world Catholic system. For China, they prefer self-chosen holy. Some clergy and church organizations in the PRC, such as the Patriotic Association, elect and ordain the bishops themselves, known as self-chosen holy. Originally, their bishop status was generally not recognized outside mainland China, excluding Hong Kong and Macau, and most of them were excommunicated by the Pope. Currently, the Holy See will recognize the self-chosen bishop as a leader of the local church members. Part of the self-chosen bishops also obtained the recognition of the Holy See through various means after taking office. The Chinese government regards the absolute appointment power of the Holy See as the interference of the national affairs and a destruction of the sovereign integrity. On September 22, 2018, the Holy See and the People's Republic of China signed a provisional agreement on the appointment of bishops. The Holy See will recognize the self-chosen bishop as the leader of the local church members, and China allows bishops to show allegiance to the Holy See. This is not diplomatic and not political. The only thing in agreement is the procedure for the appointment of bishops. On October 22, 2020, the provisional agreement between the Holy See and China was renewed for 2 years. The Holy See prays for the provisional agreement and its renewal to help resolve unsolved issues of common concern, especially issues related to the life of the Catholic Church in China, and to promote international vision about peace at a time when we experience many international tensions. Chinese Catholics always face a question whether they should listen to the Pope or the party. In 2012, the auxiliary bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Shanghai, Ma Daqing, declared allegiance to the Vatican at the official consecration ceremony hosted by the government and resigned from the Patriotic Association. He was then controlled by the authorities and missing. Among 12 million Catholics in China, 5.7 million belong to the Chinese Patriotic Catholic Association. About 6 million house church members who have sworn allegiance to the Vatican are known as the underground church. Chinese Catholics face a dilemma between the government and the Holy See.
Hello everyone, I'm Yiying Wang. I'm going to talk about part 3, Realism and Triangle Relations among the Vatican, mainland China, and Taiwan. The first part is the realism. Firstly, I will elaborate the concept of realism raised by Robert Gilpin in 1987 to evaluate the potential of establishing formal diplomatic relations between China and the Vatican from a theoretic perspective. According to Gilpin's concept of realism, self-interest in the international system is the priority of each country. States desire power to ensure self-preservation. It is common for countries to use military force, economic strength, political ideology, and cultural influence to improve their own power to gain a dominant position in the global competition. Based on realism, the following parts are going to indicate why China and the Vatican should establish diplomatic relations with each other. Both of them have strong motivations to fulfill their own interests of enhancing their international influence and status. Motivations of China can be summed up as the following parts. Firstly, China can enhance its relations with other Catholic countries, since the Vatican plays an important role in maintaining diplomatic ties with countries through Catholics all over the world. Secondly, China can improve her international image. It may help to reduce criticisms from Western countries for religious freedom. Moreover, China can weaken Taiwan's international position by cutting its diplomatic relation with the last European country. What's more, once the Holy See recognizes one China principle, a domino effect of breaking between Taiwan and other Catholic countries in Central America may occur, which may greatly weaken Taiwan's international status. When it comes to the Vatican, first of all, China owns a huge religious market. About 6 million Catholics have officially registered in China, while the number in Taiwan is only about 240,000. China's number of Catholics indicates a potential religious market. The second reason is that Vatican can expand the influence of Catholicism by realizing the goal of intertwining the Chinese Church and the Universal Church. So we can conclude that both China and the Vatican have motivations of promoting the bilateral relations because of self-interest behind the diplomatic relations. Then I'm going to talk about the triangle relations among the Vatican, mainland China, and Taiwan. It is mainly about sovereignty concerns. First is mainland China. Since China regards Taiwan as a part of its territory, the Vatican's formal diplomatic relation with Taiwan can be regarded as an attempt to separate Taiwan from China's territory. As a result, China will not establish formal diplomatic relations with the Vatican for its supporting the concept of two Chinas. From China's perspective, the sanctity of sovereignty is the priority one, and the political meaning far outweigh the religious meaning. That is to say, the establishment of a diplomatic relation between China and the Vatican is firstly based on the communication between two sovereign countries, and then comes to the supervision right of the Catholic Church. While from the perspective of the Vatican, it held a distrust attitude towards the Patriotic Association, since the Holy See believed that the freedom of Catholic Church is strictly intervened and controlled by the Patriotic Association. The Holy See accused the Catholic Church in mainland China of lacking religious freedom and real independence. On the other hand, since Taiwan acknowledged the Vatican's appointment of the bishop and the universal value of the Holy See, the Vatican still maintains its formal diplomatic relation with Taiwan. The different concentration of China and the Vatican, one on sovereignty and the other on religious freedom, may hinder the construction of a formal diplomatic relation between the two countries. As a crucial part between mainland China and the Vatican, Taiwan holds another point of view. The Vatican's formal diplomatic relation implies a recognition of Taiwan as an independent country, or in other words, it recognizes the Republic of China as the representative of China. Since the Vatican is the only European state that has diplomatic links with Taiwan, it is regarded as an important proof of Taiwan's international status. So as a political individual, Taiwan is more willing to keep the status quo. Although the Vatican claimed that it would continue its friendship with Taiwan, even if it established a formal diplomatic relation with China, Taiwan will lose its most important diplomatic country and its dignity as a political individual. Okay, that's all of my parts. Let's welcome Feng Yuan to share the last part for us. Thank you.
Let's turn to the conclusion part. Although there is still uncertainty on how the Vatican's role will pan out in the administration of Chinese Catholicism, however, since the deal between Xi Jinping and Pope Francis, there is a sovereign relations between the Vatican and China. We all believe that China and Vatican can and should build diplomatic relations between each other because it is an inevitable choice of both parties. First of all, as we mentioned before, the main reason why Sino-Vatican relations have been contradictory is mainly because of the power appointment of the bishops. But in fact, due to the different motives of the two sides, although the establishment of the diplomatic relations between China and the Vatican requires compromise, it is not impossible. The primary and imminent concern for the Vatican in China is ecclesiastic and not political. This is an important distinction. The Vatican seems to occupy the canonical regulations and laws of the Catholic Church. It cannot preserve a Catholic Church functioning in isolation from the Rome and has and it instigates the Vatican to come to a reconciliation with China, as long as the Pope has the final say in perpetuating apostolic succession through episcopal appointments. All the other issues can be reserved. And China seems concerned with necessity of consolidating support among the Catholic communities, as well as a need to create a unified Catholic Church in the country, which would facilitate the governmental control over its activities. It wants to earn international respect as it demonstrates religious tolerance and settle the strife among the devotees of the underground church. Taiwan still plays an important role in the relationship between the China and Vatican. The Vatican is Taiwan's only diplomatic in Europe and the only developed country nation that formally recognized in the Republic of China. Vatican's recognition of Taiwan confers some moral credence and sustenance to the lattice of small Catholic population. It is not inconceivable to imagine a situation where, after striking a deal on the appointment of the bishops, the discussion eventually turns to how the Vatican must consider dropping ties with Taiwan if it wants to expand activities or else lose its gains in China. Nevertheless, should forsaking the diplomatic recognition of Taiwan turns out to be instrumental to the agreement, the loss of Vatican as an ally of Taiwan would be perceived as much greater defeat than any of recent deflections by Taipei's the other allies. More importantly, should Vatican fall short of using the full extent of its powers to stop growing persecution of those who practice religion in China and fails to uphold its long-standing diplomatic recognition of ROC, it will lose moral authority and trust among the Taiwanese Catholics. Therefore, the deal has brought Taiwan on edge. It might fetter its diplomatic relations with the Vatican. Vatican and China reached a compromise consensus on religious freedom and national sovereignty. Taiwan had almost no ability to stop it. In addition, Taiwan's normalization of Sino-Vatican relations, since Taiwan's religious market is much smaller than that of mainland China, it cannot prevent the possibility of establishing diplomatic relations between the China and the Vatican. For solutions, the Vatican and China have reached a tacit agreement on the appointment of bishops, and the future may be adopt the Vietnamese model and create a Chinese model. In order to resolve the normalization of relations between the Vatican, the Chinese government may split the right to appoint bishops into two. The Chinese government essentially has a right to nominate the bishops, and the Vatican has a right to formally agree. This model has given enough face to the Vatican, and the Chinese government, through the nomination of bishops, still has a firm grasp of the organizations of the Catholic Church in the country. Perhaps China may adopt the model will not harm China's national sovereignty in essential, but will respect the Vatican's bishops' appointment traditions in form and achieve a win-win situation in which both sides step back. For the outlook, nonetheless, the road ahead is likely to be long, as each actor will need to balance short-term interests with a medium and long-term effects such an agreement may have on their internal legitimacy and international credibilities. These issues at stake are entangled in web of uncertainty that extend well beyond the confines of Vatican and China relations. Here are our references. We'll prepare some questions for you guys if you need it. That's the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.